Hey, welcome back to the channel. Think I have a really interesting and fascinating show for you guys today. I think you all know that I picked this knife up last week, mainly because of this beautiful zebra wood. And just look at that zebra wood. Isn't it beautiful? I just love it. It's got kind of a sheen to it, a nice golden sheen. Anyhow, I got this knife and I realized I haven't picked up a utility knife in a long time. It's one of my favorite patterns. I used to carry them all the time, and I was wondering, why is that? And of course, there's a bunch of utility knives here, but these are vintage in the collection. I'm talking about user knives like this. And so, really the answer to that is this knife right here. This is a Victorinox multi-blade knife, and this is the Super Tinkerer right here. And this is really the reason right there, guys. I think that we don't see a lot of these utility knives, and that really got me to thinking about that. And I thought it'd be an interesting video just to explore the Victorinox brand multi-blade in comparison with the old utility knives. And so that's what I'm going to do in this video. I think it's going to be fascinating. We'll talk a little bit about the history of multi-blades, a little bit about the history of Victorinox, and how we got to this point right here. And then I'm not going to draw any conclusions. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to let you guys draw your own conclusions. So if you'd like to hear more about that, go ahead and check out the video. Let me see. Can you do that?
A little bit.
She's learning how to wink. Yeah.
I like how she's
It's alternating eyes.
Show Papa.
Guess what?
Will you show Papa your old man face?
Oh, let's see the little man face.
No teeth.
What's with them?
All right. Welcome back to the Fortified Castle. Hi to all my viewers. I feel like we're in the day after tomorrow. You remember that movie? It was about all of a sudden, this winter weather poured down and changed the world as we knew it, and everything froze. And that's kind of what it's felt like over the past week, at least in America, but I think probably elsewhere as well. So I want to say hi to all my foreign viewers. Bonjour, privet, guten tag, hola, ciao, and konnichiwa. And so let's get right into this. It's going to be a little longer video. And we're kind of looking at these fantastic utility knives and multi-blades. And we're kind of comparing the Victorinoxes with these old style utility blades. And so what I wanted to do is start off where they all came from. So in the 1700s, this is kind of what you had. You had large jackknives, not this one, but like this one, single bladed jackknives that were pretty big. This is 5 1/4 inch long. And this is I just picked this one up. This is a Navajo style one. So the Spanish and the French had very similar looking clasp style knives, but they were only single blade. Then around the mid 1700s, towards the ends there, Sheffield figured out how to put more than one blade on a knife, and those were your first pen knives, and that's where multi-blades began, is in pen knives. And then by the end of 1700, they were moving to knives like these right here, which are familiar to us. And these were big, huge multi-blade knives. Some of them, wow, I mean, some of them were just really monstrous. This one's 4 1/4 inches right here. It's got 7 blades, and 8 if you count the screwdriver tip on there. And so this is type of knife, that was coming about the early 1800s. And here's another one. This is a smaller one, 6 blades. And these were multi-blade knives. Generally, they called them sportsman's knives or outing knives, that kind of thing. And they were your original multi-blades. If you hold this one up in comparison to the old utility knife, it looks pretty similar. And then, but that's not what I wanted to do. Let's look at it next to a Victorinox. Same thing, pretty similar in size. And so that was the history of multi-blades up until about 1890. And then the world started to change. When we talk about multi-blades, from a collector's standpoint, anything over 3 blades is a multi-blade. This is another German knife. It's a Robert Class multi-blade knife. It only has 3 blades, but this would classify as a multi-blade. And this was really popular in Germany, this style. A lot of different kind of blades were put into here. Saws, pin blades, all kinds of different blades. And then usually a corkscrew at the bottom to open up wine bottles. So in 1890, the Swedish Army is looking for a replacement, looking for a utility knife that its Army guys can use, its soldiers and officers. And so Carl Eisner put forward a type of knife to be used by soldiers. It's up there right now. You can see it. This is what it looked like. It was about 100 millimeters, which is about the size of this knife, and this is 4 inches, so it's right around a trapper size. And it had 4 blades, a main blade. It had a screwdriver blade, a lot like this knife here. This knife has a screwdriver blade, has a can opener, and it has an awl. These are all the same blades on Carl Eisner's original soldier's knife. Isn't that interesting? So back in those days, the company was called Victoria, after his mother. And it only got the inox at the end. It was a combination of Victoria and inox, which means rust-free, inoxidable in French. And so he combined those two to make Victorinox. But early on it was Victoria. And the Swedish Army adopted that knife, but it was the Germans who made it. So I don't know why, but Wester was a German firm, and they made that knife for about 7 years for the Swedish Army. In the United States, it's called Wester Brothers, if you have one of those knives. And so in 1897, Carl Eisner's about to go broke, and he comes out with this, not this exact model, but he comes out with the officer's knife. And there's a picture up there right now that I'm showing you. This is a knife that we would be familiar with, right? It had 4 blades on top, the standard utility blades, and it had 2 blades on the bottom of it, which was a corkscrew and an awl. And that's what we would be familiar with. So this knife is insanely popular. It's not adopted by the Army, and this is just a regular knife that could be attained from a firm. And not too long after that, Winger put out their model of officer's knife, and so it was in competition with Victorinox's model. But as we enter the 20th century, this is a knife that is the common utility multi-blade knife, what it's evolving to, what it's become. And it was sold in army posts, so very popular with soldiers, very popular with officers, and I believe probably your average person as well. So before I move on, I just want to make one note here. This knife was never adopted by the Swiss Army. And so it got its name Swiss Army knife from GIs that came back in World War II and who had experienced this knife in Europe, and because of its Swedish name and very hard to pronounce, they just called it Swedish Army knife. So these are not really Swedish Army knives. They're just a consumer brand multi-blade knife. So in 1809, let me see, 1909, New York Knife Company is contacted by Boy Scouts of America, and you can see the symbol right there, Boy Scouts of America, be prepared. And this is the type of knife they wanted. And New York Knife Company built it for them in the common configuration we see today. A cap lifter, screwdriver, a can opener, main blade, and a awl or punch to punch through leather or make holes in other things like wood. Pretty handy knife. This is the one we know and love. And so very early in the 20th century, 1908, 1910, you start getting these German knives coming into the country. This is a, what is this? Okay, lost it for a minute. This is a Henkel's. You see the 4-blade configuration standard there. And you see you have your screwdriver blade. So this was required for helping to take down the firearms of the Swedish soldiers, and they had not put a cap lifter on this. That's one of the things that dates this knife really old right here. No cap lifter. Okay, and that's the what these knives kind of look like when they came into the United States until the 1920s. Up until then, before they got a cap lifter. But you had 4 blades on top, standard utility type blades, and you had the 2 blades on the bottom, the awl and the corkscrew. And so this is Bernard Levin's in his dissertation on the utility knife. You notice up here in the top, so that's an advertisement from 1925. It has turned into a cap lifter by then. Earlier versions of these knives coming in the States would have just been a screwdriver blade. And you see the 4 blades on top and the 2 on the bottom, 6-blade knives. That's what they started out to be. That was the standard Victorinox officer style knife, and the Germans just copied this from the Swiss. And then you can see, our standard utility brands here with just the 4 blades on top. Levin says that these 6-bladed knives were not very popular. I don't know why. They were cheaper than the American knives, but they just never went real well. And most of the vintage knives that you see are not like this, where you have a corkscrew on the bottom, but the standard 4 blades on top. And so that's kind of the introduction to the competition of the Swiss-made multi-blade and the American utility knife. In 1950, there were 8 listed models of the Victorinox. In 1960, there was 18 listed, and in 1970 there was 25. I don't know how many there are today, but I'm just talking about the 91 millimeter models. So today you have 28, I believe, 91 millimeter models, and then you have the 84 millimeters, and then you have the little tiny ones, and then you get some big ones. And so there's a whole bunch of different today. But the thing I wanted to highlight is how in that era from 1950 to 1970, everything changed. And the reason they're providing more models like that, going from 8 to 25, is popularity. So they were becoming popular with the American public right around the 60s and 70s for these knives right here. And of course, they dominate today. As a matter of fact, it would be hard for a company to take down the Victorinox. You know, the Chinese have tried. There's been a lot of Chinese knockoffs, but you know, they have not dissipated the love of the Victorinox in the United States and around the world. So what I want to do now, so I want to compare a standard model utility knife with a Victorinox. This is the hiker. This is a hiker. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 blades on this, 4 blades on that. And at the beginning of the video, we started out saying, well, yeah, of course, you know, these are lighter. They're more blades. They're easy to pocket, easier to carry, and all these reasons why these things have replaced the utility knife. So let's just look at it. So the first thing you notice is they're pretty much the same size. You see that? So 3.5 inches and 91 millimeters is about the same, pretty close to the same. But if you look at them, put them one on top of the other, you see the utility knife kind of disappears. And let me take our new one here. And it just disappears. And if you do it the other way around, you can see the Victorinox coming around the, it's wider. In other words, that's what I'm trying to say. It's wider. It's wider. It's like I am now. I'm wider. A lot wider than I used to be. So I got my scale hooked up here. And bing. I'm going to scale this real quick. And that is 3 ounces. So the American utility knife, 3 ounces. Let's put this Victorinox on there. So this model is 2.7 ounces. So you're only talking 0.2 of an ounce lighter. If you put this, the Super Tinker is 2.9 ounces. 2.9 ounces. So this was 3. This is 2.9. This is 2.7. Not a lot of difference in weight to these knives. Isn't that kind of interesting? So I also want to just measure the overall width on these, and I'll take the widest point on this knife right here, and we get 23.46 millimeters. All right, and then let's look at our Super Tinker, and that's not it. Hold on. Gotta get her right where she's thick. Right there. 25.93. So it's 2 millimeters wider. Huh. So pretty much the same, equal in design. It's 0.2 of an ounce lighter, but it's wider. So where do we get that this thing is so much more pocketable and easy to carry than a utility knife. Isn't that interesting? You want to see something else interesting? This is a full-size Leatherman right here, rebar. When you put this knife up to it, look at that. The rebar is not much bigger. It's about 1/8 of an inch bigger than this knife. So we take it and we put this on there. 29. Let's just say 30. It's about 4 millimeters bigger, wider than this. Just a tad longer. So why not carry this, right? You have the powerhouse of a wrench along with all these tools. And the other thing about that is you can get Leathermans that are lighter than this. This is about 7 ounces, by the way. It's 7 ounces. And I carry this on my keychain. So a lot of guys carry these on their keychains. That's what this is for right here. But instead of carrying a Victorinox, I carry a Leatherman. This has 5 blades on it. It's got a knife blade and some other blades that you might find handy. But it also has a pair of pliers, which is really, really handy. I've used this thing all the time. You can tell it's kind of wore out. But that's what I carry on my keychain. It's a little tiny, this is a squirt. I don't think they have these anymore. I think it's, I don't know, Emir or something like that. They've got a new model. But anyhow, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Actually, I think the Victorinox measures pretty close to the American utility knife. And it has more blades. But really, guys, do you use all those blades? Do you? I don't know. I don't use them all. Never have. I've used this Phillips head sometimes. I use that awl a lot. I really like an awl on it. I like having a pair of scissors. It's worth it to me just to have a pair of scissors. On this model, it has the saw blade, and I would rather have a utility knife with a saw blade and a pair of scissors on it than all that other stuff they put on them knives. Anyhow, I just thought that was interesting that they're not as small, not as light, not as pocketable as you might think. And do you really use all them blades? And I don't know. Maybe this is all you need. Maybe that's all you need. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you guys found it informative. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again.